There are people among us who like to play with dead bodies, and more when they see those bodies, they see parts, they see dollar signs. In a more civilized age, we would call these people grave robbers. Today, we call them Planned Parenthood. I'm Seth Drayer, and I'm sitting in for Mark today on the Mark Harrington Show. All right, again, this is Seth Drayer, filling in for Mark Harrington on the Mark Harrington Show. You might remember several years ago, David Daleiden. That's a name we all knew in about 2015 because he was an undercover journalist recording video footage of Planned Parenthood officials. They were swilling wine, stabbing their salads, and bartering about baby body parts. We all know what happens in abortion. Well, those of us who are honest enough to take a look at abortion anyway, right? We know we have distinct, living, whole human beings who are being decapitated, dismembered, disemboweled. What we learned in 2015, David Daleiden, an undercover journalist, recorded video of officials discussing over meals how they would try to have babies be delivered intact, born intact, that is aborted, still killed, but keeping generally their body parts intact in order to preserve parts that could be used for sale because those body parts become very valuable. And one thing we've seen over time, and this is what Mark has shared many times with you, that is that when there's a people group who are in the way, or when they have something we want, as a people, we are very good at justifying ourselves and killing them or even using them. Look at our history in our nation of the slave trade and the abolitionists who fought against the slave trade in Britain, but also in America. We had people who were in the way and also had something we wanted. Free labor, right? Or very cheap labor. Today, when people look at aborted babies, they see again not only humans in the way, but those who have something very valuable, their body parts. David Daleiden heard about this and he went undercover to expose it in 2015. Now, I want to get in a moment to a side note that I think is very important because last week a new video from David Daleiden hit the airwaves. It's been shared on social media a lot. I want to talk about almost a throwaway line in the middle of this video. But again, first, let's set the stage. Here's what happened with David Daleiden back in 2015. He recorded these videos. He started exposing them. And I'm sure many of you, dedicated followers of Created Equal and the Mark Harrington Show, you've known this. This is not new to you, right? You've known that people who kill babies sometimes profit off their body parts. And so you were not surprised to hear about this happening. But what was shocking in 2015 was not only that David Daleiden exposed this via video, which you can see on his website for the Center for Medical Progress. Later, he was actually prosecuted for this. Now, someone who we all are following right now, the current vice president who's now running for president, Kamala Harris, she was Attorney General of California, where David Daleiden lived when he was exposing this by video. And what happened was David Daleiden was actually, his house was raided, undercover footage, as he started playing these videos on the internet, showing them to everyone for all to see. Agents of Kamala Harris's Attorney General for California, agents of her office raided his house, seized undercover footage, and much of it was then held for a long time, but he was releasing other videos. He was eventually prosecuted. Kamala Harris moved on. Her successor, Javier Becerra, took over for her, and actually Daleiden and his colleague were found guilty of many felonies. Now, this is very shocking for a moment, right? So we're talking about people who are killing people, preborn babies, of course, and taking their body parts and selling them. Those people were not prosecuted. Those who were prosecuted were the whistleblowers. But that's old news. I know you know this, but it's still shocking. Every time I remember this story, I think about how shocking it is that we get so upset at the whistleblowers, not the ones actually doing the injustice, killing people and then selling their body parts. There was one particular video where the official was talking about wanting a Lamborghini. And if she could sell enough body parts, maybe she could get a Lamborghini. That should shock you. It shocks you. It shocks me. Sadly, it doesn't shock enough people. But interestingly, when this happened, Politico actually had a story where they called Daleiden. They said this was the activist who almost single-handedly shaped the abortion conversation in our nation. They knew this was creating this was creating waves throughout our society as people who were okay with killing babies were a little uncomfortable with the idea of selling their body parts. Because when you talk about selling body parts, you attach value to those body parts. You think also, whose liver was that? Whose heart was that? It's not the mom's heart. It's not the mother's liver. It raises very uncomfortable questions. All right, that's the backstory then. But after 8 years, there's one particular video that Planned Parenthood blocked. And just last week, finally, after years of being blocked by Planned Parenthood, delayed and released this on the Center for Medical Progress on their social media channels, on their website. And I want to play a few clips for you. Many people have been playing this, sharing online. Please continue to do that. This is one major action point you can do right now. If you're mad about whistleblowers against Planned Parenthood being prosecuted, go online and share this video widely so that many people can see it. But I want to share a few clips from this video. And again, I want to focus today not on just the selling of body parts, how shocking that is, very shocking. But I want to focus on what is almost a throwaway line in a later clip I'm going to show you, where you see how the killers engaging in their grisly trade, how they perpetuate this grisly trade by desensitizing people to what they're doing, right? You and I watched this video, we're shocked, disgusted by it, but you'll see how they're training people, leading them, saying, it's okay, you'll be comfortable with this eventually. But let's start by setting the scene. Okay, so we're going to watch video footage from a Houston Planned Parenthood mega center. You're going to see a couple officials there. Now it's important to know this was pre-Dobbs. This center has been shut down thanks to Dobbs finally ending Roe versus Wade. It did not end abortion. Tragically, we all know this. But this video was taken before Dobbs. It was, again, blocked by Planned Parenthood. Today, you're finally seeing it. I'm only going to show you clips. I encourage you to go watch the full thing on your own. But I want to start with one clip to kind of just show you the language being used here. You're going to see killers, Planned Parenthood officials, talking to the undercover the journalist and talking about what they were doing. So let's watch the first clip here. You're going to see how they talk about playing with tissue. What is that tissue? Dead baby's body parts. Let's watch the clip together.
Two providers who go up to 24 weeks, and Ann is one of the providers. And I'm so sorry. Met the other provider that goes up to 24 weeks, which is Anitra Beasley. Okay. And Ann is the other provider that goes up to 24 weeks as well. So if you want more intact ones, she's the one you kind of need to talk to.
You're the one to see, huh?
I had a patient, sometime in the past few months. I don't remember what it was. She wanted footprints, and I had a resident with me that day. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this procedure because I'm going to try and do my best to get these feet out and turn.
Right.
We did footprints and handprints, baby.
Dude, you guys are awesome. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot in that footage. Again, we're watching the undercover journalist videoing conversation with these leading officials. We're talking about the Houston Planned Parenthood mega center before it was no longer able to continue its grisly trade in the wake of Dobbs. But what you saw there, what I want you to take note of here is some of the language being used already, right? So this is shocking. You saw her like raise her hand excited about doing footprints, talking about whose footprints are these? It's not the mother's footprints. It's the baby that she just aborted. Footprints for the mother. That's already a twisted question. Why a mom would want her baby to be killed and then what footprints for it? Now, that's a totally separate issue, but it's not new there, right? Many, again, Mark's followers, you probably remember Tiller the Killer, right? This was George Tiller, the killer in Wichita, Kansas, who was known for having baptism available for babies after abortion, photo sessions for them, for parents. A lot of people, after they kill their babies, they still want to somehow mark this as a moment. And this is shocking because as a parent, I tell you, I love my baby's footprints from their births, but not because I killed them first, because I recognize their value as they were. It's shocking to us. But remember, my emphasis here with these videos, I want us to look at how they are desensitizing themselves and others following with them. Because it's well known today, it's hard to recruit new abortionists. A lot of OBs don't want to do abortions. Just look at the work of the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs. They detail this, the fact that it's hard to find OBs who want to do abortions today. And it's understood why, right? Their whole trade is, here's how you care for two patients, mother and baby. The whole idea of now we're going to have you kill one of your patients, the baby, that's a big leap to make here. But this is how they do it. Listen to the language. Talking about playing with tissue. Playing with, that's gross, right? What is the tissue we're talking about? It's not the mom's tissue. It's the baby's tissue. There's another word for that tissue. It's body parts. The dead babies come out, and now we're playing with the tissue. Other videos David Delight released years ago that have led to some of the felonies show them actually picking through the baby's body parts. But in this clip, it talked about, you heard one of the doctors, and Dr. Ann Schutt-En, talking about how she does abortions. The other one said she does abortions up to 24 weeks. I want to show you some pictures of babies before they're born, babies that have not been killed. But one of these pictures on the screen you'll see is of a 20-week baby. The baby's sucking her thumb. If we click on that, I think we can make it bigger. But this picture of this baby, this is only 20 weeks. The abortionist in this video clip does abortions past this stage. Now, again, most pro-choice people I know, when they look at this picture, they might still say, yeah, that's a human, not a person, but they recognize that's a human. Now, a lot of people don't look at a one-day zygote and recognize her humanity because it's so hard to recognize it, although a one-celled zygote looks just like she ought to look at that stage in her development. But most people look at this baby at 20 weeks before the cutoff, where the abortionist in the video does abortions before her cutoff, and they recognize that's a baby. And that's the age that they are killing babies at, and thinking, I want to play with this tissue. I want to find some parts that might be valuable, right? So she mentioned a D&E, again, to make sure we're all on the same understanding here, a D&E, dilation and evacuation abortion. I think you know how that works. They take a grasping instrument like a forceps and insert it and just grab a body part, often blindly, sometimes guided by ultrasound. They'll maybe grab a leg, twist and rip it off and pull it out. Grab another leg, twist and rip it off, pull it out. But here she said she does it carefully to preserve the foot. The foot. Whose feet? Not the mom's feet. I'm sorry. The baby's feet, to do footprints for the baby. But we're going to continue listening to another clip now and see they're not only preserving those body parts for the purpose of the mother's remembrance through footprints, but also because they see dollar signs when they consider how they can get these body parts out. Let's continue on with the second clip. We're going to see they're talking about, you'll see also this throwaway line in there. Listen for Dr. Schutt-En, the second doctor in this clip, talking to a third person about how over time you'll get used to this. Let's play that second clip.
I'm just like, are you serious?
It's funny because ever since, I think I remember, it was like 6 months or a year ago you told me about the proposition. And so now every time I do a DNA, I'm like, oh, there's some long.
Yeah, you already know, huh?
Like, I'm like, because I we can do this. I'm telling you.
Down. No, I'm excited.
You told me about the proposition. And so now every time I do a DNA, I'm like, oh, there's some long.
Yeah, you already know, huh?
I was like, where is he? I was like, where's my guy who can play with the tissue? I was like, because they were like trying to sort it, and I was like, I'm like picking up some more. Like, they're like, well, can you show us a sample from today? And I was like, is this a really bad day for us?
I remember you mentioned that there was one that day.
And it was like one bad sample.
All right, so you heard that. So she said, Dr. Schutt-En again. So this is the second doctor we met. Now we see a third person in the clip too, but she says, ever since you told me about the proposition, I when I do a D&E, again, D&E, remember D&E, I just explained, grab a body part piece by piece and pull it out. So she says, when I do these now, I recognize, oh, there's a lung, there's a liver. Why are they considering that? Because they know that we saw in other videos, if you go back and watch earlier videos, when they give these body parts up, it's not just giving them up, which would alone be a problem, taking a victim of a violent crime and saying, let's use your body parts for science. But in doing so, they're also getting financial benefit for this. But then there was that throwaway line in the middle here, right? I don't know if you caught it because the first person who was speaking in the beginning of the video, she kind of takes over. But you see in the background, Dr. Schutt-En kind of put her hand on the shoulder of the third woman there. The blonde woman say, you know what? You'll get desensitized to playing with the tissue eventually. I know it can sound morbid at the beginning. I'm sorry. I don't care how long you've been in this. It is always morbid to take a victim of a violent crime and play with their body parts. And worse, to play with those body parts to find the valuable ones you could pass off even if there were no financial benefit. The idea of stumbling upon an innocent victim of a violent crime and saying, there's a valuable body part. I'm going to take this and give it to science. That alone is a problem. What should you do? Blow the whistle, what David Delight did. And now he is the one who's prosecuted, not the ones who are killing the people and taking their body parts, valuable parts for science. He's the one who's facing legal ramifications. And so I encourage you all to also not only, check out Center for Medical Progress, share their video, but also consider donating to his legal team that are trying to defend him because he's still facing legal challenges for this. But that throwaway line was so important. Her arm on the shoulder, you'll get desensitized to this eventually. I know it can sound morbid at the beginning. Now, what's going on there, right? You see this kind of protege. This we don't know much about her, that third person, seemingly maybe a newer person to this, and the well-seasoned killer who kills babies past 20 weeks. The picture of the baby sucking her thumb, you saw that, saying it can be gross to play with the tissue, to maybe grab body parts you might sell to someone. You'll get used to it eventually. Wink, wink. Now, this is where we see the shocking nature of how this grisly trade continues. What they do is they not only continue their grisly trade, they celebrate themselves who are doing this crime. We read in Romans 1 about those who do evil things and not only do them, but celebrate those who do them. They also train others to do it by saying, come, get your hands a little bit dirty in it. At the beginning, it might feel uncomfortable, but eventually you'll be okay with it. Now, okay, I'm no medical practitioner. I imagine your first time doing a surgery, it can feel probably uncomfortable. But as you get your hands involved in what is, of course, shedding blood, although as Greg Cunningham has said, the leader of the Center for Bioethical Reform, he has said there's a difference between blood shed to kill and blood shed to heal. And the new medical practitioner who does a bloody surgery, it may be gross, but they know they are trying to help someone. You don't have to become desensitized to it. You might get used to the procedures, but you're not getting desensitized because you don't have to rework the wiring of your brain. You are trying to help someone. But when you are killing someone, when you're playing with their body parts afterward, that can seem gross. And until you sear your conscience, it will always seem gross. But they do that by saying, come, get involved a little bit in it. Eventually, over time, it'll feel okay to you. And I want to show you more about how they do this, right? Through some of the language they use. Okay, we already mentioned tissue. Another word for that is body parts of innocent victims. Playing with, another word for that would be, I don't know, like being a grave robber, trying to steal body parts you find to be valuable. But we're going to see more euphemisms. Euphemism is the simple idea of taking an uncomfortable idea and trading out for a better sounding word to make it sound better, like abortion, right? Killing doesn't sound very good. Let's use abortion instead. Baby doesn't sound very good. Let's use fetus instead. Fetus could work because that is a Latin for young one, but it's been changed today to mean this kind of quasi, not really human kind of thing, right? So word language really matters here. And you follow Mark, you know about that. Mark talks about this a lot. It's important that we talk honestly, really, truthfully about abortion. That's why Created Equal shows pictures and videos of aborted babies on the streets and on college campuses. We want to strip away the veneer, the euphemism, let people see abortion for itself. But I want to show you now clip 3, where you'll see this continuation of this idea. If we want to lead other people into our grisly trade of killing and playing with body parts, we're going to keep using more euphemisms, words that maybe don't sound so bad to the normal person. You'll see this again in the third clip we're going to show. Let's watch that third clip now.
I was like, was this a really bad day for us?
I remember you mentioned that there was one that day.
And it was like one bad sample. It was like a 16-year-old kid.
Who's going?
It was like a 16-year-old kid, so we just had to hurry up. Whereas like other days, it's like more intact, where it's like maybe only like an arm that's dislocated.
All right, so a really bad day. I mean, right there. What's a really bad day? A bad day for Planned Parenthood, maybe few abortions. That's a really good day for babies. So that's just a small side note, right? But I don't know if you caught the word. She used a word in there I didn't know until last week. Disarticulated. Now, in the pro-life movement, we talk honestly about what's happening in abortion, right? Pill abortions, what happens? You starve and suffocate the baby. In surgical abortions, you decapitate, dismember, disembowel the baby. That's the language we use. But she used a different word in there. She used the word disarticulate. Now, I learned this word recently when our executive assistant, Elizabeth, sent me some information from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. This is a wildly pro-abortion group. It used to have a segment of this college, used to be the American College of Obstetricians, OBGYNs, used to have pro-life people in there, and they started chasing them out, which is why the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs formed. They used to be part of ACOG, the American College of OBGYNs, but they were forced out. So ACOG is wildly pro-abortion. On their website, they have some guidance that you can see in this Planned Parenthood video, guidance of how to talk about abortion. This is largely meant for journalists, researchers, things like that, saying, here's how here's what they say. They say they have a guide on their website, the Guide to Language and Abortion, which is designed to help inform language choice for those writing about reproductive health, to use language that is medically appropriate, clinically accurate, and here's the best part, without bias. Now, the word that was used in the video is disarticulate. That's in this guide I want to show you in a moment, because I had never heard of this till our assistant sent it to me. So in this guide, they say things like, don't use the word dismemberment ban. Instead, don't use that. That's going to be offensive to people. In the clip where they talk about dismemberment ban, there's a large paragraph. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but they say don't use the word dismember. Use disarticulate. Now, why is that effective? You and I hear dismember, we think, dismember, that's gross, that's horrible. You're dismembering someone. Disarticulate doesn't sound so bad. In the video, the head honcho of we see in the video above the abortionist there at Planned Parenthood, she talks about disarticulation. What does that mean? I don't know, but dictionary.com defines disarticulate pretty clearly. According to dictionary.com, disarticulate is to make become disjointed as the bones of a body. To make become disjointed as the bones of a body. That's not very hard, right? So when I hear disarticulate, I think, what's that mean? When you define disarticulate as to make or become disjointed as the bones of a body, if you're making the bones become disjointed, what are you doing? You're dismembering someone, right? But they're choosing a word the American public is not familiar with. When they say disarticulate, it sounds okay. So follow with me again. So we see this video clip showing how they are engaging this grisly trade of killing people, preborn people, that is babies, playing with a tissue, finding valuable parts to sell. But then we also see how they are mentoring people in this, saying, hey, it sounds gross at the beginning. You'll be okay with it eventually. It sounds morbid. You'll get used to it. Just get your hands a little dirty. Get your hands in the blood a little bit. It's going to feel okay eventually. Then they're using language, not saying body parts, but tissue, and not saying dismember, saying disarticulate. It goes on. If you were to spend more time looking at that guide I showed you from ACOG, the American College of OBGYNs, they even say things like you can't use the word womb anymore. They would say the word womb is a non-medical term that applies emotional value to a human organ. Instead, just say uterus, right? Just like now we're also seeing you shouldn't say woman, you should say uterus haver, right? It's getting really crazy out there, right? So next they're going to say you can't say heart anymore because heart has too much of an emotional idea to it. You must say the cardiac organ or something like that. It's getting really crazy. Now I can bet you in Planned Parenthood sex education that they have in our schools for children, they're not saying don't use those actual words for sex organs. They're saying the words into children. They're not saying, hey, Johnny, don't touch your gonads. They're saying, hey, Johnny, here's what you should do with your saying the actual word to lead him into doing all sorts of horrible things. They use the words when it fits their purposes, but when it might assign personhood value to preborn people, then they don't use it. There's a purpose for this. They're leading their killers, making them feel more comfortable with killing people by using language choice that makes them seem non-human, non-persons, and making the actions of dismembering them seem not so bad. All right, one last clip I want to show you. One last clip I want to show you is the last clip we're going to see how, just kind of summarizing this by the end of the video, you'll see the leading doctor here, Dr. Wen of Planned Parenthood here, who works over the abortionist, Dr. Shut En, talking about this situation where they had conjoined twins. And also listen to her saying, kind of for a moment, having this moment of awareness, saying, if someone heard me, whoa, they'd be shocked at what I'm saying. Let's watch this final clip together.
We had 17-week twins in the freezer because we're waiting for a funeral home to pick them up.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, I'm sorry, you can't see them. They were like the most intact because it was a fetal anomaly. The conjoined twins. I was like, I'm sorry, we put formalin in there, so it's all like dark white. It's not clear. It's not like something you can see. And he goes, oh, but I was like, it's really cool though. There's like 3 legs and like 2 spinal cords and
I'd be
like.
down to see that. That would be pretty cool. Like,
But like it was different because I was like, I know you're not the tissue guy, so it's not the same as when you're like, hey, look, we're a little bit different than other providers.
different is good. I hate mainstream. It just seems so disingenuous. It's just like, why am I listening?
I'm like, yeah, I have like a leg for you. I'm like, oh shit. If other people were to hear me, they'd be like, you're fucking evil.
Right there, did you hear that? So she said, I have a leg for you. They said, oh, wait, if someone else heard me, they're like, oh, you are, insert expletive, evil. Right now, she's laughing about it, trying to, again, cope with this. This is a way that she copes herself with what she still can recognize as evil. Now, here we see the leader who is leading people and saying, use disarticulate, not dismember. Say tissue, not body parts. Say cardiac instead of heartbeat, cardiac activity instead of heartbeat. All these things that they are saying to do, even she can recognize, have a moment of awareness where she would say, oh, wait, if someone else heard me, they'd say, you are evil. But then she laughs and shrugs it off. And her followers, we assume maybe the newer killer, the blonde person, I don't really know what her role is there, but we imagine she might be someone who's being mentored, led into this. She's kind of laughing and saying, hey, it's going to be okay, right? But that gives me hope because even those hardened, evil killers can have moments where they have a moment of awakening awareness. You can see this if you follow someone like Lisa Harris. Lisa Harris is an abortionist in Michigan where, she wrote a paper years ago called Breaking the Silence, talking about being a late term abortionist, talking about killing a baby who was, I think, 22 or so weeks old, maybe 21 weeks old. She was doing an abortion at that time when she herself was pregnant with her baby at the same stage of development, around 21 weeks. And as she did a D&E abortion, taking off a leg, tearing it off, she said as she pulled the forceps out, saw the foot in the teeth of her forceps of that baby she was aborting. At that moment, she felt her own baby kick in her womb, a foot in the teeth of her forceps, a foot kicking in her womb. And for a moment, Lisa said she started to cry because she said, my body got moved so quickly to respond before my feminist politics could step in and stop them. She had a moment of awareness. That gives me hope because we can still break through. We look at these people and think they're too hard and it's impossible. God can use anyone, things that are said, truthfulness like pictures of abortion, true communication, or even maybe their own conscience to awaken them, have a moment of lucidity where they can see what is true. And that is that they're killing people and that is wrong. But let's summarize here because I want to give you again some action points, what you can do. Because it's really frustrating when you see this kind of thing and you think, well, it's hopeless. But right there we saw there's reason for hope. Even killers themselves, they can recognize what I'm doing is evil. They may laugh and move on, but that shows me they still have a functioning conscience somewhere there. The late Joe Scheidler said long ago that if you have a functioning brainstem and a heart, you can recognize what is wrong, that killing is wrong here, right? Especially when you see abortion for itself. So here's what you can do. You can be part of helping us awaken people to this, whether they be the killers themselves or the average person on the street. If even the killers can have moments of reality where they see that this is wrong, it's evil, the average person on the street, the casual person who votes for abortion, who supports abortion, who might drop someone off at Planned Parenthood to have an abortion, even they can be moved. But we need your help to do this. Here's what you can do. First of all, again, help David Daleiden. Check out the Center for Medical Progress and share his videos online. People would, again, Planned Parenthood, stop this video I showed you briefly in clips for 8 years. Help us now get this to a further cultural resonance by sharing it widely in emails. Send it to your pastor, send it to your friends, post online to show others. Make sure you get this in front of other people. But also join us. You know who we are. Create Equals committed to getting the reality in front of people. How do we break through words like disarticulate and the other things they use, tissue? Show abortion for itself. That's what we do. Go to createequal.org. Consider donating to us to make our work possible. Our team is on the streets every week, whether it be downtown on college campuses, talking to people, showing abortion for what it really is, and talking to people. And we see they do have moments of awareness. You can break through. We see people moving from being pro-choice to being pro-life after they see abortion for what it is and talk to someone like you or me. And we're having a really great opportunity for this coming up soon in our Justice Ride. If you go to createequal.org or go to justiceride.org, you can learn about the Justice Ride, where we take college students and high school upperclassmen on buses to Florida. We come to Columbus, Ohio from across the nation. They come here. We get on buses together and go campus to campus doing this work, standing shoulder to shoulder by pictures of babies killed by abortion. And we talk to them and say, what do you think about abortion? What we see over time is that people, when they see it, they change their minds. And these students we recruit who stand with us, they go home to their own cities across the nation. They become pro-life leaders because they are emboldened now. After having stood with our team, talking about abortion with passersby, they become tomorrow's pro-life leaders. And that gives me hope because Planned Parenthood, they are certainly grooming and leading people into killing. But to do it, they have to have all these ways of covering up the crime, covering up the evil, saying it'll be okay eventually. You'll get used to it. For us, it's not that way. We give people the bold marching steps. Here's what you do. Stand with the sign or just go talk to someone you know. Talk to people. Help us expose abortion for what it is. We need more people doing that, and we have truth on our side. So that means that our movement, whether I'm not going to measure in size to Planned Parenthood, what matters most is we have truth on our side. If you help us by donating, helping to recruit, send high school, college students our way, or finding how you can join us in your own hometown by going to createequal.org and joining us, we can work together to make this, to change the reality of what we see in our culture today. What we see is a culture hiding evil, hiding abortion. And now we see people rising up politically who support this, have been a part of prosecuting whistleblowers like David Daleiden. It's not time to sit back. It's time to get active. So join us. Go to createequal.org. Find out how you can help us. Help us recruit justice riders. Stand with David Daleiden and other whistleblowers who are exposing this. Don't let them keep pushing people into the grisly crime of abortion by covering up what it is. Help us expose it. We can do that together. Together, we can truly come together to end ageism and end abortion. And that's what we're doing every day at Create Equal. Join us, keep following Mark, help us share the truth widely across culture that everyone, no matter how old you are, how young you are, it doesn't matter, born or preborn, every one of us, we are all truly created equal.
You've been listening to Mark Harrington, your radio activist. For more information on how to make a difference for the cause of life, liberty, and justice, go to createdequal.org. To follow Mark, go to markharringtonshow.com. Be sure to tune in next time for your marching orders in the culture war.